Carl here from All Media Reviews, here to do the albums of the year 1991. I guess first things first, like of course a lot of these I'm going to want to go over and do again, add some stuff. One record from 1990 that I forgot, D-Light's World Click, which includes the song Grooves of the Heart, which was a pretty big hit. But there's some other stuff in that I know from Christian commented. I didn't even include Pantera's Cowboys from Hell and everything like that, so... Alright, so moving on to 1991, I kind of look at 1990, 88, 89, 90, at least the top being better. There's some good records from 1991, but I don't find any of them, like, not too many of them like classics per se, but there's some good records. Stuff that, you know, I didn't get around to including on the list. Again, it's sort of splitting hairs to some degree. I gotta fix this again, of course. My apologies for that. 26. I have 27, I guess you could say, albums on the list, but Lenny Kravitz's album Mama Said, which has the song It Ain't Over Till It's Over. It's been getting a lot of play recently. And by the way, he has his new album Blue Light, I think it's called. Came out today. I haven't gotten around to listening to it yet, but Saint Etienne's Fixed Base Alpha has the song Only Love Can Break Your Heart. I listened to this like 15 years ago, and they were playing Saint Etienne on college radio. I know Jake Roods played them, but this is, by rate and music standards at least, their best record, so I probably could get more into it than I'm like giving it credit right now. Atheist's Unquestionable Presence. Atheist is a band, you know, it's like jazz metal, technical death metal. You know, death, and you could even put Watchtower in there to some degree, and the technical metal, Psychotic Waltz. I don't know, I mean, I like Cynic, and I know members, like, there's a crossover. I've never been able to, like, spend enough time with Atheists to know of, like, I really would get into them, but some people love them. Soundgarden's Bad Moto Finger, which I don't believe this is the album, not the album that had Black Hole Sun, or I think this may have been their debut album, though, but I'm not a big Soundgarden fan, but I can kind of respect their place in history. They were influenced by King's X to some degree. Anyway, Public Enemy, and I have this on cassette, and I didn't get around to listening to it. This is the tape. This is it, right? Yeah. The follow-up to Fear of a Black Planet, which came out, that was just the year before, I think. Apocalypse 91, The Enemy Strikes Back. Yeah. But I didn't even write anything down. No, I forget if this has any other, like, sort of, like, go-tos, but, you know, not really. Bring the Noise with a Z, but, anyway, thought I'd just include it because I know I had this tape, you know. Of course, I bought, like, the wrong tape. I should have Fear of a Black Planet, I don't have that one, the classic. Temple of the Dog, which features, I think, Chris Cornell, Eddie Vedder, and maybe one of the members of, like, Screaming Trees. It's like two to four different of the grunge bands, or maybe Alice in Chains, were involved in this. It's like a super group, but it was, I mean, they didn't know which one of them was going to be successful if they were doing a bunch of different bands, but that song, I'm Going Hungry, I don't know if that's the name of it, I believe. They only had the one album, I think, Temple of the Dog, so. Red Hot, this is kind of, you can call it egregious not to include it in the rankings. Red Hot Chili Peppers, because I could put it on there. Blood Sugar Sex Magic, which was their sort of commercial breakthrough and was really popular and sort of sustained their career in some ways. It has probably two of their four biggest songs. I'm not that much of a Red Hot Chili Peppers fan. I like John Frusciante. I can take or leave them, but some people are obsessed with them. I love the Mars Volta, or at least love a lot of the Mars Volta, but it didn't feature their songs Give It Away and Under the Bridge. Are both pretty good songs. I mean, they have Higher Ground, but I think that might have been on the next one. Anyway, Naughty by Nature's debut album. It's kind of a mixture of, like, rap and New Jack Swing, if I recall. I just remember they had one or two songs that were frequently played on Friday Night Videos. So I ended up hearing enough of their music at that point. Siege's Evens, A Sense of Change. See, I know Christian has talked about them. I've known them, like, when I was getting into other kinds of progressive metal in the 2000s. They were a band that came up, but I never spent a ton of time with them. But some people love them, but I can't even describe what their sounds like other than their prog metal. But Seal's debut album, Roxette's Joyride, which featured the title track, that I've never gotten around to listening to more of. I love some of the Roxette, like, hits, and that look sharp the previous record. But I had a little bit of a thing for Marie Fredriksson, R.I.P. But and I don't know of like the records that came a little bit like Duran Duran, some bands that end up had their sort of peak period of commercial or sort of mainstream success, and they did music after, but they didn't get known. Their albums aren't as well known and as popular. But Joyride was like the last sort of popular Roxette album. I always associate riding the bus home from high school my freshman year and that song being played frequently by the radio in the bus. And then this one I totally want to invest some time in. Another Prince record. This is Prince and the New Power Generation, the album Diamonds and Pearls. By some people's token, this is return to form for him compared to like the previous two releases, which he did the soundtrack to Batman and I forget which other one. But it was like Love and Religion or something like that. So, all right, onto the proper countdown. 21, so this would be 22. I can get this correct. Every time I do this, I'm having to make last minute edits, audibles. So it's 26, not 27. So 26 and 25. Guns N' Roses is Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. I guess I would lean toward 1, but I didn't really get to spend time reviewing it. But of course, it does have November Rain, and their cover of Live and Let Die. And then Use Your Illusion 2 is the most well-known song, probably is Knocking on Heaven's Door. I thought Patience was on this record, but it may have been on that other record they released between this or the one after that. But anyway, I'm not huge into these records, but I know some people swear by them, and even though they didn't get the airplay and the sort of notoriety, they're much more artistically satisfying. But Guns N' Roses, I like in small doses, I guess you could say, so... November Rain arguably is sort of progressive because it's very orchestral. And it's like 7 minutes and it was a hit. Weird video, of course, at the wedding and all that stuff. But number 24, Mr. Bungle's self-titled debut album. So like Mike Patton had done Faith No More, but I think he was in Bungle before he joined Faith No More, but they hadn't released any full-length albums. But, I listened to some of this today, and I've listened to Bungle here and there in the past. The song Retro Vertigo is the song I always think of for them, but they just are kind of like genre bending and combining and, blending for the sake of at times. I mean, it's jazzy, it's almost klezmer sometimes, then it's thrash metal, then it's just being kind of awkward. And, I get their sort of shtick, but at the same time, it only has so much staying power for me. But I know why people love them, and I lean more toward Faith No More, of course, but I respect Mr. Bungle more than I actually can say I like them that much. That's why it goes. I mean, I like some of the songs I was listening to today, like Egg, quote unquote, slowly growing deaf, which is rather catchy. They have like these catchy bits, but it's like it's a lot of meandering's the right word. It's like shifting to this style, shifting to this style. It's like a collage. It's not always congruous, Squeeze Me Macaroni is another one, but I don't know, when I get to 99, Retro Vertigo, like the California record, I may have to revisit that, and that may actually end up higher, I think. Anyway, number 24, number 23, the first compact disc on the big stack. And this was the CD era, so not surprising I have more CDs than vinyl. Fortunately, this is kind of a disappointment, but it's a record I haven't spent that much time with, even though I bought it years ago. I don't have like a thing on this, but... Strange and the Beautiful from Crimson Glory, which is the final record with Midnight, I believe. Because they did a record after this, Astronomica, which was with a different singer. But the two sort of well-known songs are the title track and the chant. But it's like they were trying to do hair metal, like pop hair metal, really. It's less progressive. But, I mean, Midnight sounds good, but they were definitely not doing prog on this, not nearly to the same degree they did in the previous two records, on Transcendence especially. So, anyway, Crimson Glory, Strange and the Beautiful. Maybe one day this will grow on me enough, but I have it at this low for that reason. Number 23. Number 22. So I'm not gonna lose my place here like I have more than once, unfortunately. Again, I apologize for that. Van Halen's For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, or FUCK. Of course, their most commercial hit, maybe the most commercial hit other than Jump they ever had in Right Now. Of course, there's a lot of metaphors about sexual activity and some other stuff. I like the riffs are good. It sounds kind of 90s-ish. It doesn't sound like, but I get the sense that the actual melodies and some of the arrangements aren't. I mean, yeah, In and Out. That's what I'm thinking of. Man on a Mission, um, Top of the World, Spanking. There's some weird metaphors on this record. Otherwise, I would probably like it more. I mean, the fact that it spells out Fuck and all this stuff, and Pound Cake. I also I've always gotten like sort of homogenous sound. Like this is one note. A lot of the songs kind of blend or blur. Whereas I feel like the previous two Van Hagar records were more diverse. They worked. Each song worked better. But that being said, I mean it's still not bad. And production's great on it. And right now, while it got a ton of plays on that, like it was like a Pepsi commercial, still holds up for the most part. Even though it's very piano driven. But Van Hagar piano. So yeah. For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, number 20, number 22 from Van Halen, or Van Hagar. Number 21, Bella Fleck and the Flecktones' Flight of the Cosmic Hippo. I think this is live, but anyway, got it from the library years ago, liked it. I can't talk much more about it. I mean, it's Bella Fleck, and it's his Flecktones band, which features all these great musicians and mixture of like bluegrass and jazz, and of course he has some world music and just rhythmic percussive stuff. Futureman and Jeff Kaufman, I think's on it. I mean, they're more of a live band, but I mean, for the studio stuff, I'd put this up there among their better studio records. I think of Bella Fleck mostly for his live performances, but anyway, number 21. Number 20, the band, this is their debut album. A lot of debut albums came out in 1991. The band Live, Mental Jewelry, which, is not looked on as favorably as some of their records. I don't know. I paid $5 for this in 2005. It goes back that far. I remember getting a bunch of the Live albums, and why the band Live, or Live, I believe they're known as Live, they have like a lot of songs I like, but at the same time, it's like r.e.m. doing hard rock, grunge, sort of. I mean, in some ways. But the title track is good, and the title track? Wait a minute. No, Pain Lies on the Riverside, rather. And then The Beauty of Grey. Mirror Song's another highlight. I think they did better work, but I kind of look at the live albums that I'm familiar with, the 90s live albums, I guess. They're not that different in quality, but I guess I'll revisit some of them and see like, was it Distance from Here? They used like harpsichord and Secret of Samadhi, a lot of people love. But anyway, the first live album, and you can say what you will about Ed Kowalczyk. I mean, he's a good singer, though he does sound kind of like Michael Stipe. But he's had his share of sort of he's his I don't call it controversy, but I know some of the more hardcore fans, or there are people that have said, I don't want to go any further into it, but. He's a little bit of a lightning rod, you could say, but some of the music that he's done and his vocal lines are a big part of the live sound. So anyway, I know they're actually kind of big among Ours fans, and I know Bruno from the Kevin Gilbert stuff did like an archive for them and everything. But I saw them live, in concert once at Myth many years ago. So let's see here. That was number 20. Number 19, mainly for like a couple songs, one specific track. I don't have the booklet, unfortunately. I thought I might even have this on vinyl. The Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey soundtrack, which has King's X. The King's X didn't put out an album in 1991. Granted, this song, after reading the book, probably should have been on the album that followed it, but it was like a bonus track on like a Japanese version. It's the song Junior's Gone Wild. Great track. It's much in the same vein with the drop D tuning, and could have fit easily on either Faith, Hope, Love or the self-titled album, which will come the next year. But this also features Go to Hell from Megadeth, which always makes me crack up. The Perfect Crime from Faith No More. Steve Vai's The Reaper and the Reaper rap. I don't know. I mean, I largely love this for the King's X track, but the other songs have their merit. I mean, obviously, like Faith No More, you had Bungle and you had Faith No More doing this track. But yeah, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, maybe better than the first Bill and Ted's soundtrack, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, although I don't have that, but that didn't have King's X on it. That's number 20, various artists. Number 19, that was number 19 rather. Number 18, the Tea Party's debut album, which it's almost like a demo in some ways. I know it's not that long. It does feature some of the songs that they do on the next record, Splendor Solace, and I've meant to do the Tea Party video for years, and I've got so many bands I want to do that with. Maybe when you get into this series, I'm going to make a list and just try to do them. But I would love to get a copy of it. But yeah, it's got, is it Midsummer Day, that's the song I'm thinking of. I mean, but I know that like at least 3 or 4 songs were re-recorded or remastered for the record after this Splendor Solace. So, and it's very Zeppelin-like. I mean, almost more Zeppelin-like than the record after, which sounds a lot like Zeppelin. But Let Me Show You Your Door, Little Miss Heaven, Winter Solace. Yes, that's one that. But I swear to God, like 3, 4, 5 of these tracks are also on Splendor Solace. But anyway, have to include it in here because I'm a pretty big fan of the Tea Party. I've never seen them live. I've wanted to, but so that's the self-titled debut from the Tea Party, number 18. Number 17, the Soul Cages from Sting. Has some decent songs, although I'm really finding revisiting the Sting albums, he's very much of a song person versus an album person, which I kind of think the opposite in some ways with the Police. I always found the Police albums always had deeper tracks I enjoy. There's a few on here. I mean, it has the hit All This Time. It has the lyrics Murder of Crows and The Meek Shall Inherit the Earth. The song Mad About You is decent. It's very mystical. Jeremiah Blues is one that my friend used to play in the car. It's got that track, It Was the Best of Times. The lyrics, he keeps on saying it was the best of times, or he opens up the verses with lines like in that same cadence. The title track is kind of grindy and but gets kind of progressive in the second half. But as a whole, I mean, a friend of mine said that the Soul Cages was his best record, and I don't know if I would really believe that. I actually think Dream of the Blue Turtles is better. I think the one after that, from 87, 88, might be better too. But he's more of a song. His songs work, but his albums seem to have filler for me, unfortunately, a lot of them. We'll see what happens with 10 Summoner's Tales. That was the album I first checked out from him when I was getting into some of his music. So I saw him in concert for that that supported that record, the tour for that in 93, in summer of 93. So, like my third concert ever. Maybe second, actually. So, number 17, that was number 17, number 16, rather. We have Fish, the second solo record from Derek Dick, a.k.a. Fish, former lead singer of Marillion. Internal Exile. And, well, I don't know if I like this as much as the debut album of The Vigil in the Wilderness of Mirrors. In some ways, it's kind of nice because he starts to do some different things. It sounds half the time almost like Scottish folk music. A lot of instrumentation, I don't know, like recorder and stuff like that. But there's a few tracks on here: Credo, Tongues, Lucky, Shadow Play. The title track gets really proggy towards the back part of it. It's almost like Boiled Lead, the Irish folk band from Minnesota here that has a big following. Dean McGraw has been part of them. Something in the Air, he does a cover of, which is I totally recognize, but I did not know the band. The band is called Thunderclap Newman, but that was an 80s staple, like late 80s maybe. Carnival Man, the ending is really that may be the best song on here, actually. Really technical. So it's a pretty good record. I mean, it probably should go a little higher, but like I said, within the next few years, I need to do a video on Fish's solo career. And I've always sort of, being the Marillion fan, I think I'd know it better, but, as it is, I only know it to some degree. I need to know it more, and so that's why an album like Internal Exile and Vigil of the Wilderness of Mirrors aren't in the top 10 records from the years they came out. Partly to do with the year or whatever, but I think it was Vigil may have finished in the top 10. I have to scroll up to remember how far it finished. It's right here. Actually, it finished number 8, so anyway. So moving along here, number 15, r.e.m's Out of Time, which, it actually is not their biggest, sort of statement landmark record. I mean, it's one of them. It has probably their most well-known song, Losing My Religion, which features the mandolin and stuff like that. I think it still holds up compared to some of their hits. I don't mind, but I'm not, obsessed with it. Radio song Shiny Happy People, and Shiny Happy People is one of a few songs I think which features Kate Pearson from the B-52s, because I think the last track did, but Near Wild Heaven has really good vocal harmonies. That also has Katie Pearson. Endgame, never heard that term until the last 10 years. They had a song called Endgame, and this is 1991. I'm going to lose my place here because I got all these notes. But the end game has really nice string and horn parts, mostly instrumental, but has some chanting. The song "Belong" has a nice narrative over the music, which is another part of it I like. Chanting from the band and everything, and then Texarkana, the strings and the harmonies are really nice on that. So yeah, I'm Out of Time. Obviously, it's known for Losing My Religion and Shining Happy People, but it's got some good deeper tracks. And I'm not like a huge r.e.m. fan, but I actually might prefer it over some of their more, like the next one, Automatic for the People. I'm gonna have to include on the list from, was it '93, I think. But anyway, number 14, number 15, Out of Time from r.e.m. Number 14, Metallica's The Black Album, or the self-titled album. Bob Rock produced. You know, of course, I know, and most people know the hits on this record. It was everywhere. Enter Sandman, of course. I actually, I mean, I still don't hate Enter Sandman, but the other hits I think are better. I think The Unforgiven is more soothing, more sort of, it's very kind of trippy, dreamy, and it works in a lot of ways. I'll always think of westerns. Think of like, there's another movie called The Unforgiven, the Gene Hackman western movie. I could be wrong, but yeah, I mean, it has a southern element to it to an extent. And then, of course, Nothing Else Matters. That track is the best track on here for me. It almost sounds like they're doing like a yacht rock or Bon Jovi thing. So, but the solo, which is played by James Hetfield, is really good. And the string arrangements are really good. The thing is, you know, so those are kind of the songs I knew long ago. There's a few other songs where I think it's Wherever I May Roam that was like a minor hit, but Tread on Me, there's some like, you know, Dream Theater borrowed, it sounds like Don't Tread on Me, they borrowed a riff from that on The Glass Prison. I keep on hearing The Glass Prison on that. Through the Never, is it? That song is the first sort of song on the whole track list I found that really has the sort of fast thrashy section. The God That Failed, My Friend of Misery, I think is really good. The vocal performance is great. It does remind me, the riff in it reminds me a little bit, again, Dream Theater, Stream of Consciousness. And I don't know, again, there's a lot of Metallica influence on Train of Thought. So I don't know if they were listening to this album when she wrote that kind of, you know, but, and there's some keys in the solo. It sounds like keys are like a fat guitar patch. I don't know if it was Kirk or whatever. So looking at the credits, I didn't see it. So, I mean, the Black Album, I can understand both the reason why people like it and people don't like it, or they think they kind of jump the shark. There's not the sort of fast thrash moments, the breakdowns that I kind of gotten used to with the Metallica sound of it'd be the first 5 albums. But I also understand why people like this album more than the records that came after it, because some of the songwriting is still pretty good, some of the riffs are good, but it's probably, I mean, if I'm ranking Metallica albums, well, it's pretty long too. I don't think it really would. I'd prefer it over any of the previous records, other than maybe Kill 'Em All, just because the production is much better. It's Bob Rock. It's just there's a lot more money put into the production. So anyway, decent record beyond Enter Sandman, of course, but would go higher if I liked it more. Some people love it. Some people think it's, you know, again, it's not thrash. Metallica's abandoned, which there's still a few thrash moments, but it's more just the guitar riffs, some of James' vocal performance, but the songs just don't have as much to them from a sort of real head-banging, really, you know, we get that really, some of Lars' drum parts aren't as fast. Anyway, so it's first album that I think you pretty much can hear Jason Newsted, because you didn't really hear him on Justice for All, controversially. So, number 13, prog metal, sort of, in a sense. Savage's Streets, an album that I've never fully embraced. Part of this is John Oliva's vocals I've never fully loved, but I've gotten more used to them. And I revisited this today, and the best moments on this album are pretty good. The concept at points gets a little bit too cheesy. It gets to be a little too... The dialogue or the narrative gets a bit too much, overweighs some of the actual music that I look for with Sabotage. That being said, a song like If I Go Away is super impassioned. It's sad almost in some ways. Somewhere in Time, Believe, the ending track, it's like they put it as a 2-track thing on here. It's 2 different tracks on Spotify, but it's 1 track on track number 12 on the CD. Is great. I mean, Believe, they did at least 2 other versions, I think, of Believe. At least one of them without Chris Oliva, but Believe is just a fantastically, you know, like power ballad. it's icon. Not I would call it iconic, but I mean in the Sabotage canon, it's like a top 5 song people know them for, because they did it like 3 times, like I said. Songs like Jesus Save is decent. Ghost in the Ruins. The bridge is really proggy. It's like a cool lead bass. Tonight He Grins has a great theme to it. Gollum I like. It's quirky, but no, I'm looking at Voivod. My bad. Strange Reality, rather. Strange Reality, though, sounds to me almost like a mixture of Queen and like the 2112, a riff from 2112. But it sounds like arena rock, kind of. It's I don't know. I think this might have been the first, produced by Paul O'Neill. I mean, the first record they started working with Paul O'Neill. He wanted to do the whole orchestral rock thing and orchestral conceptual rock thing. So, I mean, this is a rock opera, but I think they did better records. I mean, it's long, it has good moments, but I think there's a little too much filler for me to love it. And even though I'm starting to get more, accustomed to John Leva's vocals compared to like 20 years ago when I barely liked to listen to them. So, decent record, Streets, but it would be better. Streets of Rock Opera would be better. The concept is like about a guy, his name is Jesus or Jesus. I guess he dealt drugs and stuff like that, but he was part of a band. I forget the exact concept, but maybe if I knew the concept better, I remember reading about it when I first got into them, I might appreciate the album a little more, but it's like I get a little too much of the Jesus Christ Superstar. It's like Proto Men. Some of these concept rock operas, even like Styx's Kilroy is here. The rock opera part just sticks out a little too much, even if some of the music is pretty cool. B for Pay Us Salvation, I felt like kind of figured out the marriage, because B is really a rock opera too. But anyway, there's other concept albums that were sort of rock or operas, but that don't get too operatic in terms of narrative and characters and dialogue. Although I liked some of the samples and like the voiceover stuff in that. Anyway, number 13. Number 12, I do have a physical copy of this album. Voivod's album, Angel Rat, which I just bumped this up. This is produced by Terry Brown. While it still contains some of the issues that I have with Voivod and the singer mostly, it's more polished from a production standpoint and from a melodic standpoint, although there aren't really choruses. I just find that the songs stand out a little bit better than the previous Void records I've listened to. Clouds in My House. The guitar solo is really nice. The Proud Best Regards has a cool bridge that's very progressive. The title track is trippy and dreamy. Has that line, the idiot walks along a canvas. It's like repeated more. And then I mentioned Gollum from the Savage. Gollum is very quirky and trippy in the middle. So, yes, I think I probably need to spend more time with this album if I do, since it's a rough draft. Could go even a little bit higher. I mean, part of it is Terry Brown. I think it shows, but at the same time, again, there aren't like strong, memorable, like I can't even describe, like I can't even hum any of their songs. So that they're not meant to be memorable. They're meant to be sort of just listened to at the time. But Terry Brown's imprint on this makes a difference. I know like a lot of their fans don't even think Angel Rat's that great. Like their other records, Nothing Face, are much better. But anyway, number 12, saw them live once with Vector, of course, I mentioned in the previous video. Number 11, Michael Jackson's Dangerous. Like Metallica's Black Album, it's kind of, there's the best stuff on it, the title track, Jam, Black or White, of course, Kevin Gilbert did some of the engineering on that song. You also had Jeff Becerra on this album. You have Slash playing a guitar solo. I think it's the title track, yeah. Remember the Time is kind of a hit that you've heard more in the last like 10 years after he passed away, like 50, whatever, it's 15 years ago. 15 years ago next month, actually. There's a big New Jack Swing element to this album, and it's a long album. It's like over an hour. It's like 70-some-odd minutes. You have Teddy Riley doing the production, but the other guy that did production, this is how Kevin Gilbert actually was able to work with him, do any work with Michael Jackson. Bill Burtrell, who later obviously worked with Sheryl Crow and worked with Tony Matinee with Kevin and Thud and everything, but Bill Burtrell had his hand in some of the songwriting and engineering, I think, on this, or some of the production. But Teddy Riley, on like probably 60% of this, because he's like the master of New Jack Swing, he's one of the fathers of that style, is all over like probably more than half this record. Heal the World sounds like We Are the World, totally, like a sequel to it. Which is, it's okay. And there's a lot of ballads on this. One of the last songs, Gone Too Soon, sounds like a Karen Carpenter song or like a Minnie Riperton thing. But no, It's Given to Me has the Slash guitar, has Slash on guitar from Guns N' Roses, of course. But I was listening to Black or White, and it sounds like Duran Duran's "Hungry Like Wolf." I never noticed that before. I didn't realize that the first minute and a half there was this sample of this kid playing the radio, and his dad's telling him to turn it off on Black or White. I have the 7-inch single actually, because Kevin worked on it, of course. But yeah, it's a good record, but its biggest flaw is it's too long. I mean, compare the 3 previous records, and those 3 records aren't too long. This record's sort of hit and miss, and the New Jack Swing kind of dominates a lot of it. So anyway, number 11, still a pretty good record. Michael Jackson's "Dangerous." Number 10, Ozzy Osbourne's "No More Tears." I used to have this on CD when I was in college. I used to listen to it. I don't know what happened to it, of course, but features, a bunch of songs I know: "Mr. Tinker Train," "Mama, I'm Coming Home," "Road to Nowhere," and the title track especially. It's kind of progressive. It's hard rock metal. I believe this is maybe one of the first records with Zakk Wylde. I mean, having it go this high, I probably should have more detail to add to it. I wasn't able to revisit it, but I hadn't had it on my list previously when I made this list. This has to go in here somewhere. It's got those 3 or 4 songs I listened to over and over again in the early '90s. Our hard rock metal station played Ozzy to death, but those songs I don't actually think have worn out their welcome. I still like them. So anyway, Ozzy Osbourne's "No More Tears," number 10. Number 9, Pearl Jam's 10. I'm going to basically just cite the biggest hits. The best song on here is "Black." The harmonies are great in that. I'm not much of a Pearl Jam fan, although that record and the one after, at least I know and I was into. I still like them, but, and again, the King's X influence. In that book, a couple of the members of Pearl Jam talked about being big fans of King's X. But, of course, "Even Flow" and "Alive" were the other big hits. But, it's a good record. I could flip it around a little bit. It may not go quite. I would maybe put "Voivod" or "Sabotage" higher than it. But as it is, beginning to end, I think it's a better record than some of these other records that are below it. But anyway, number 9, Pearl Jam's 10, the debut album. Number 8, I have both vinyl and CD. My favorite and really my go-to, the one record I really think of for this band mostly, because I think their sound is sort of homogenous. It's good for what it is, but it's got its limitations. But this is my favorite record from Ozzy Tentacles. It's their 3rd, maybe, record. "Strangitude." I got the vinyl, of course. I played this whole thing on the air on KFEI many years ago. But, yeah, it's sploosh, saucers. The title track is great. It's space rock, a lot of oscillators, a lot of spacey grooves. I find that some Ozzy Tentacles albums just I feel like I'm listening to the same song over and over again. And it goes on they're doing a lot of the same things. Even though he uses a lot of, Ed Wynn uses a lot of different guitar textures and stuff like that. Strangitude, it's it wins for me for Ozzy Tentacles because it's sort of less is more. I think in some ways this might be their biggest album from a sales or commercial standpoint. But anyway, I'm going to say a ton more about it, but Strangitude is my go-to Ozzy Tentacles album, so it has to go relatively high, and it's number 8. If you don't know Ozzy Tentacles, they were influenced by Hawkwind, space rock, instrumental jams, the Wynn Brothers. Hal Waters played with Roger Waters' son and everything like that, and then Ed Wynn married a woman from Detroit Lakes, and she was with the band at one point as well. So number 8, Strangitude. Number 7, I talked about this in a video when I got this. I have 2 copies of this, so this vinyl or the one that's over here could be yours if I ever do a giveaway. The debut album from Saigon Kick. So we got Saigon Kick debut album. We have Pearl Jam's debut album. We have the Tea Party's debut album. So that's 4. There's a couple more. There's at least one more record that's debut album on my list. Mr. Bungle's debut album, so that's 5. I'm not sure. Live's debut album 6. So you have 6 or 7 just on my own list debut albums. Well, people were getting their Temple of the Dog, another one. They're getting their start in music in the 90s. But this is Saigon Kick's self-titled debut album. The hit was What You Say, but songs like Colors, Susie, Down by the Ocean, and Come Take Me Now, which sounds a fair amount like the Church's Under the Milky Way. Good album. They would do better stuff. It's sort of it's hair metal. It's kind of poppy hair metal on sorts, but it's got some progressive or groove undertones, you could say. This is one of the albums that has Matt Kramer on lead vocals, of course. But yeah, it's a good album. It's a debut. I guess I'm relatively big Saigon Kick fan. Like Ozric Tentacles, it has to go higher than some of these because I would reach for it over those other ones. So number 7, Saigon Kick, the self-titled debut album. Okay, so number 6, I'm pretty surprised at this point. I need to get this on vinyl, but I don't. The Rush album, Roll the Bones, which I've said their last classic to me was Presto from '89, but this album still has a fair number of good tracks. At one point, I almost felt like starting from this album, they got worse with each album, but I'm not sure I really prefer this album over Counterparts, at least. My favorite tracks on this, some of them aren't very popular, though. One of them is Heresy. Another one is The Big Wheel. Big Wheel and Heresy, to me, are the gem deep tracks on these two gem tracks, the deeper tracks on this album. Most people know that Rush fans know Dreamline, they know Bravado, they know the title track, of course, as the rap. And Ghost of a Chance, which was a relatively popular hit. You know, that was actually one of the first Rush songs I ever heard, because I didn't even know who the band was, like, and KQRS was playing it. It's a good record. I mean, I guess if you just took my favorite songs, compared it to the albums in the 80s, it almost would match up. It's just it has a few songs I don't really care for, like Face Up, Neurotica, and You Bet Your Life. Those 3 are like, they're not the worst Rush songs, but Where's My Thing is a pretty cool instrumental, although I still like some of the other instrumentals more, but I like it's not space rock, but the synths that they use on that. But, you know, the thing is, this was the last record they used synthesizers for a while, because I know they dropped them mostly on Counterparts, and then it's like, you know, they wanted to be more influenced by heavier music, grunge, you know, and it's like, well, Geddy, you gotta, you know, let's put the keyboard away for a while. That's what Alex has joked about. But yeah, Bravado and Dreamline are you know, I mean, the best songs on this album, Roll the Bones, are really good. But I just find that I won't listen to it beginning to end like I did the previous records, and otherwise it probably would be a little bit higher than this. So, and it's actually, this in some ways is my generation Rush album, because even though it's 90s, when I first became a Rush fan, this is their newest album, even though it was right around Counterparts. I was into them about a year before that, but... So, anyway, Roll the Bones from Rush. I don't mind the title track and the rap in it. It's fine, you know. Number 6, so top 5 here. All right. Got, I feel like I'm missing... No, okay, I don't have physical copies of... That's why, okay. Yes. So Queen's Innuendo, which the final record it came out while Freddie was still alive, I believe. Came out in 91 because he died the next year, unfortunately. So I mean, he was making this, he was making Miracle, I think, and then the record after, which I need to revisit, that Made in Heaven, while he was just dealing with the complications of HIV. But this has a few hits, like Delilah and I'm Going Slightly Mad, which are kind of loungy. Both of them are loungy. But the biggest gems on this, especially the last track, is So Impassioned. I probably, I'm saying I've slept on that song, but I don't listen to that song enough. That would probably be in my top 10 Queen songs. I don't even question that. It's unbelievable performance by Freddie on that. But, I mean, I don't find there are any bad songs on this record. The title track is great. I know Steve Howe's on that. I'm pretty sure he's like a guest on that. And I think he probably does that flamenco... no, I'm thinking of Show Must Go On. Yeah, I didn't mention that. The title... No, the title track has the Spanish guitar. Yeah. Almost sounds like flamenco. You know, kind of flamenco-esque. But rather riffy. And then it's kind of heavy, almost metal, but I'm guessing that was Brian May. So it's like Brian May collaborating with Steve Howe. But what else? Yeah, Don't Try So Hard. Freddie stands out a lot on that track. Hitman has like a big guitar riff. Bijou also is Brian May led. I mean, you know, a lot of these songs Brian May is front and center on. I don't think there's too many vocals, though. I mean, a lot of the later Queen albums, you didn't have Roger Taylor or Brian May doing as many of the vocals on. They do the harmonies, of course, but All God's People's the religious lyrics are a little bit weird for me, but Ride the Wild Wind, it's a good record. On a deeper year, it wouldn't be this high. In the pantheon of the sort of, you know, canon of Queen's catalog, it's not the top, but it definitely is better than some of the other records. I probably would even put it slightly above The Miracle, and definitely put it above Princess of the Universe, Kind of Magic, but and then Hot Space. But yeah, pretty good record from Queen. You know, again, 91, not a very top heavy year, but you know, it's a pretty good record, so it goes this high at number 5. Number 4. So the debut album, self-titled debut album, they were originally were called Awful Truth, and they changed their name to Galactic Cowboys and got signed to Geffen. Galactic Cowboys. Now, this is their debut album. Love their kind of combination of like Metallica meets the Beatles meets grunge in some ways. The harmonies are great. I love a lot of tracks on this. The following record I like even more, but it's a pretty damn good debut album and why it goes this high. You know, of course they toured with King's X a few times. I saw them many times, and they're from Texas, and they, you know, I believe this wasn't actually produced. Oh yeah, it was produced by Sam Taylor. So there's all these King's X connections, of course, with Galactic Cowboys, but they were heavier. Songs like I'm Not Amused, Captain Crude, Sea of Tranquility, Pump Up the Spacesuit, Ranch on Mars, Reprise, Speak to Me, Captain Crude. My School is really catchy. I always think of Steely Dan's My Old School with that song, but yeah, Why Can't You Believe in Me? I mean, their use of harmonies and some instrumentation, but with the balls to the wall riffs and the driving like energy they have on so many of these songs. I'm Not Amused. They yell out, "We're not amused." I mean, you need an energy record. This is a great choice. Now I almost would go to the next one, but anyway, Galactic Cowboys self-titled album from 1991. Number 4. Number 3. U2's Achtung Baby. Probably the last classic U2 album. There's some other records I like that came after this, a few of them, but I don't think it's a perfect record, but I could arguably even say this is my favorite record from 1991. The only thing is I don't really love the song One because I've heard it too much and it's a ballad and it gets played frequently. My brother would play it frequently. I got just nauseated by it. That was actually, you could say, hearing that song and then a few other radio hits kind of turned me off to U2 and why I never got into them. That was the only reason, one of the reasons. But you go beyond the track One, and The Fly is awesome. That guitar riff from The Edge. Mysterious Ways wasn't popular, but that song succeeded where One failed. I'm not sick of Mysterious Ways. The groove on that is just infectious and so memorable. Ultraviolet, even better than The Real Thing, is, again, that's kind of poppy, but I haven't worn out on that, you know. Until the End of the World, which was actually written and was in the soundtrack for the Sam Neill movie of the same name. Acrobat. Yeah, I love Achtung Baby. I mean, I think it from a beginning to end standpoint, I actually think I might prefer it over Unforgettable Fire and Joshua Tree. Not by a lot, but by a little bit. I don't think the best songs on it are quite as good, but I think it actually is their masterpiece in some ways. I need to get it on vinyl, but it's not cheap. Find a used copy on Discogs someday for like $40 or less. Okay, so number 2, again, another one that's pretty, I'm kind of ashamed I don't have on vinyl at this point. I have a picture disc of some of the songs, but of course, Marillion's Holidays in Eden. You know, it's not the top of list of my Marillion albums, but it's an album that I've gotten more into over the years, of course. It has a couple of tracks that are among my favorite songs on my list. The closing sweep, This Town, The Rake's Progress, and 100 Nights. That's the best part of the whole record. That's some of the most progressive stuff. That the saxophone arrangement, the reprise of the melody of This Town during 100 Nights is dreamy. I love that, the way it closes. That's some of Hogarth's best work. Then the other one is The Party. That's the other one that totally, the lyric has that lyric, describing yourself, describing whatever. List the qualities of things people you despise, you realize you're describing yourself. But The Party has great dynamics. Splintering Heart is decent. Dryland, of course, was done by the Europeans, Steve Hogarth's previous band. I don't know, I might prefer the version with the Europeans. I didn't even do that in the year that album came out. I need to, when I do these albums of the year list again, I might include it. Waiting to Happen is okay. The thing is, this album has the cover of Sympathy, which is like a disc 2 bonus track, and was a video they did, and it's awesome. It's the Rare Bird song Sympathy. It gets heavy. The riff, that Mark Kelly's sort of organ riffing. Cover My Eyes is okay. I mean, again, that sounds kind of like U2, but yeah, Holidays in Eden, while, you know, again, on a deeper year, it wouldn't be number 2. It'd probably still make the top 10. I've grown to love it more and more, and for the progressive parts, you know, the title track is okay too. I don't really hate any songs. In fact, the worst songs on here, in some ways, I actually don't mind as much as some of the worst songs of a few other records. But anyway, so Holidays Need number 2. And what's number 1? Well, we see again the return of Fate's Warning and Parallels. Terry Brown produced, so you had him producing Angel Rat and this album the same year. And they did record this in Canada, so I don't know if they crossed paths with the Voivod guys when they recorded. I don't remember them being mentioned in the book, although Jeff Wagner's writing a book on Voivod, and I wonder if he'll bring that up. I'm going to have to buy it, because I like his books and like his writing, even though I'm not that big of a Voivod fan. But yeah, this is I mean, it's not my favorite Fate's Warning album, but it's their sort of most polished album, their most sort of catchy, accessible album. You know, Eye to Eye should have been a pop hit. Point of View, you could say the same thing about. The best song on here is The 11th Hour for me. It's the most progressive. The call and response, vocal harmonies and everything. It's just live staple. Life in Still Water, another really poppy song. We Only Say Goodbye. Was it Life in Still Water actually supposedly has James LaBrie of Dream Theater doing harmonies, but you really can't hear him. Leave the Past Behind is good. Don't Follow Me. There's not a bad track on here. The road goes on forever. So, and again, I'd stress on another year, like if you put this into 88, 89, 90, you know, it wouldn't have been number 1. It would probably still be in the top 10, maybe top 5 even, potentially. But I mean, among my Fate's Warning rankings, it's sort of in the top 6 or 7, but, you know, album of the year, they're just 1991. I haven't found an album that I'd ever like looked and revered upon. So, you know, but I love Fate's Warning, and this is one of their best records, and so that by default it becomes number 1 for the year for me. So, what are your favorite albums from 1991? I'm looking forward to Christian's comment with the 25 albums that I'm missing. But thank you for watching. 1992 is coming up. I hope to do a calendar update next week. I got, of course, the June anniversaries. Hopefully I can get in next week. More Pepe Deluxe. All that good stuff coming up in the next week. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.